What's good, guys? We're back with another episode, and I am your director for this Past Attractions episode. My name is Nam, and with my co director sitting in the other chair, Mr. Jeremy Evans.
Hello.
Today, guys, we're going to be talking about a 1994 cult classic movie that I remembered fondly, very fondly. The Crow with Brandon Lee. All right, guys, we got three segments here that we're going to talk about. And the first segment, we talk about the past. So, The Crow, man, when this movie first came out, I'll tell you what, it starred martial arts future, is what I would have said. The future of martial arts action movies actors, Mr. Brandon Lee, the son of the late, great Bruce Lee. I was really excited about it because I think the ordeal of during the time when like you had like Batman's like superheroes, I thought the Crow itself was something different. It was like an anti-hero, kind of like the Punisher in a way, but had this like really cool gothic dark makeup thing going on,
hmm
and more of like the rock vibe.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was probably the reason why I really got excited about it, because it was Brandon Lee. So, you know, a half Asian gentleman that's doing a movie that wasn't like a stereotypical movie. For me, representation was such a big thing because it would be cool for me to see somebody of some sort of Asian descent actually be a lead of a movie. I remember this movie fondly when I watched it a long time ago. I mean, I thought it was enjoyable. I remember like the pop culture aspect of The Crow because after people watched this movie and after this movie came out, a lot of Halloween costumes.
hmm
But I mean, that was kind of how my past experiences were with the movie. Jeremy, how about you?
So I was a small town kid moving to the big city around that time. So that was not on my radar that much. It wasn't until probably middle school because I was yeah, it was around middle school where I started hearing about this movie, not so much in the theaters, but more of people talking about it. I think that at that time it was now coming to video. So I heard more of the video release of it more than the theater of it. And everybody was talking. I remember everybody was talking about it because I think at the time people were following the suit of what Batman was leading these dark movies. So everybody was doing some kind of dark movie along with like not just the Crow, but like Dark Man, if you remember that movie, The Shadow, if you remember that movie. Yeah, did. We did a video for it. But but the Crow here, I think what made it stand out, I think it was one of the darkest ones out of all of them. And it was the darkest movie we have seen since that time. I mean, like from there, I think maybe this movie might influence more darker movies after that, I guess you would say. But like, if you want to compare this to Batman, to all those movies, this was the darkest as long as just the theme of it. But I think the reason why this was talked about the most was the more stories behind the scenes than the movie itself. So it intrigued you to to know what this movie was trying to do. And so, especially with Brandon Lee, his situation, that was the most talked about around my circle. And of course, like I agree with you, piggybacking on the goth and everything like that, and how it was very pop culture of the popularity of costumes and everything, and the music. A lot of people really rocked that music, which I noticed that this movie had a lot of music playing in that. So yeah. Over but for anything like that, it's interesting. It was interesting at that time. So and I at the time I think I only seen half of it, but I don't remember it all. So in our conversation, it's gonna be more of me coming in like I have never seen it before because I after watching, I was like, I don't remember any of this at all. So
Let's talk about how we actually felt about the movie, Jeremy. For me, I actually still, at this very moment, really like the Crow character himself. Like, I like the concept and the idea of a vengeful spirit that was that had a lot of tragedy that happened to him. And so it's not really like John Wick. It's like a dead John Wick. At least in my thought as far as like vengeful spirit. So more like a Punisher, the Spawn character, even though Spawn came out like 3 years later. But I also like the environment. I like the way that they cinematically made this a kind of a dark and grittier movie, and had the tones and the music and everything that went along with it. Because I felt like I wanted to know a little bit more about that area, that world, or how dark and how deep it is. It's kind of like Gotham City in the way where like there's a bunch of villains in Gotham City, and it's corrupted and it's run down, and that's kind of what I wanted to see.
It
So
kind of remind you of crap. What is it called? Escape from New York.
yes, there
Kind of
you
has
go.
that gritty vibe there. It's just disasters everywhere, gangs everywhere.
Yeah,
No
it's
one's safe.
also kind of like I wouldn't say it's exactly like this, but like Mad Max, but not on a post-apocalyptic, but more like everything's just so contained inside its own like
Mhm.
city. I mean, I did enjoy the action scenes that I did see in the movie. What did you like about this movie?
So it was just a fun. It was just like a fun one night story, I guess, because you forget that like it's why is it night all the time? Well, it's still taking place in like one night, and so that took me a minute to kind of register that, especially when we saw the year gap in between those. And so, um, yeah, I do like that, and I do like the fact that I like how the crow itself, the bird, was helping pushing the narrative and pushing of where the story was going to go next, who was the next person that we're going to be focusing on and what's going to happen to them. So I like the way they did the transition using the crow for that. And I don't mean like a swipe of a crow and then we get a next seed. I mean like we get to see the ability of what this crow does as like kind of like a CNI dog or a sniper or a scouter basically that looks around as we get ready for the next setup of what this next scene is going to be and where this story is going to go. And then I do like Sergeant Daryl. I thought Sergeant Daryl was a good supporting um, character in the story. I like that he was the person that still wants to fight for justice. He was basically your Gordon of this story.
Let's talk about some of the things that we didn't enjoy about the movie. For me, a lot of the villains, for sure, were lacking. I think the depth of the story was not there, not as much as I would like it to be. Because I did kind of like the actual villains themselves. I just wanted to see more of them. Like, whether it's Top Dollar, like, I felt Top Dollar could have been more of a villain. Like, I
Mhm.
wanted to see him do more dastardly evil things. The character I felt that was grossly underplayed was Tintin.
Mhm.
I really liked the idea of Tintin. Like, I think there could have been so much to play with Tintin as far as being like the underboss. He was good with the knives. I think we could have played on to how dangerous he really could have been.
Would you say that it would have been better if we're talking about video game forms? He could have been a later boss to fight instead of being the first one to fight.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. Like he's
Yeah.
one of the major underbosses.
Yeah, because the other two people were kind of like not good follow-ups of how skillful, he was
Yeah.
in that case, right?
I do like the villain characters. I just didn't like so much the story that was fleshed out about it. The pacing to this movie was actually slower than I had remembered. Like I
Mhm.
felt like I remembered more action scenes and more action just in general. Something about the dialogue for the crow was a hit and miss for me. Like
100% agree with you on that.
I felt like he was still trying to figure out like what the crow is, how he's gonna be, whether he's like a maniacal Joker like character.
I would just roll him up as trying to be kind of more like a little bit of a psycho kind of person in general, like trying
Right?
to be psycho. Yeah, in his own way.
Like I think a dark kind of psycho would have played out, but I felt his dialogue was a little off.
So there's several things that I realized that I really wanted to like this movie, and this movie kept making me question too many things and made me more concerned about certain situations. Especially, I was saddened because I didn't know this is the same director that did Dark World. This was the next follow up movie. In Dark World, I enjoyed Dark World a lot because that was more focused on a noir. And I was wondering if The Crow did a noir, would that be maybe a little bit better or for worse? I don't know. To your other point, when you were talking about it felt slower, and I think the answer is that it's because one of the issues I had in this movie was the editing. Some of the editing was not the best for what it is. There was a lot of flashiness. There was a lot of quick cuts that felt like things were going fast, but it wasn't. I wasn't really liking it, especially like I kind of got annoyed by the flashbacks. It was just flash, 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 and not like going back and forth in scenes. I'm literally talking about they flash you with this bright light for everything he touches that brings back these memories. And it was just so much going on, especially, when it was for him trying to remember everything when he went back to the home, to the place that, he got killed at. So everything he was touching, it was just like more of a culture shock. And I got that. It was just kind of a bit of annoying, and it kind of got like, we get it. Um, but I think one of the things you mentioned that you did like is the Crow himself. I didn't really care for him. I didn't like him. I think that I couldn't take him seriously. I couldn't take him seriously with the costume. I couldn't take seriously of the way he wanted to go at it with things. Um, I was kind of disappointed that uh they were trying to make him psycho, but I wasn't satisfied with the actions that he was trying to do as a psycho, other than like the famous gun scene, which that was satisfying for Will's cool with that. But everything else, because of the editing, in my opinion, is for a movie that's rated R. I was kind of disappointed that there were so many cutaways to a death and we never got to see the action of the death, from the Micah's death, from the knives thing to the drugs with the morphine, all this stuff. We always see the aftermath of it, but we never actually seen him do the dirty deed. And I wish that was in it, for especially rated R. I mean, I just wish we saw that for a rated R movie. If you're gonna make it rated R, I just, that's my expectation, to see that. Especially, this is supposed to be a super dark movie for what it is, and it almost feels like maybe it should have been PG-13 based on this. Because you don't really see blood that much and everything like that. But just him himself, just the way his dialogue and everything, it just didn't work for me. And I was hoping that the game in the protagonist, the antagonist characters would help me carry through this movie, but they didn't do the job. I didn't understand the rules of being the Crow. I think that was tough for me, which I'm not going to go too much details, but the questions I asked for myself was like, okay, he comes back from the dead a year later. I'm fine with him, not looking like he aged, whatever. I'm fine with that. But I guess, like, where does the strength come from? Where does the agile come from? How come he knows all this stuff? He's a musician. And I wish we learned a little bit more backstory of, like, maybe he did a little, like, maybe a little bit more of details. Cause I know this movie was trying to do more show than tell, but maybe could have done a little bit better if it told a little bit more about his backstory of some of the things that he did. So it can make me more believable of like, oh, okay, he has a little bit of skills, instead of like, I came back from the dead and now I have all these skills all of a sudden. And I know how to do all this stuff. Maybe it would have been better if he used to be part of the gang, or maybe he was associated with them and then he left and then something happened. I don't know. I had more questions and I didn't get the answers.
I have a tendency to agree. I wish there was a little bit more to it. Screenrant did a really good job of talking about the entire history, the death of Brandon Lee, and just kind of the curseness of the Crow movies and the future Crow movies and the TV shows and everything. But you can check that out in the link in the description. Now we will talk about the future of this franchise. Jeremy had brought up to my attention that in 2022, Bill Skarsgård is going to be playing Eric Draven in The Crow, at least according to Wikipedia. We all know that Wikipedia may or may not be 100% right, but for The Crow movie itself going forward, Jeremy, what do you think they should do to capture your attention and your willingness to actually watch this movie? And how do you feel about Bill Skarsgård as the guy being the lead actor?
Let's be honest here. This character, the Crow, it just comes down to, I have to see him build up in long hair. I think most of these people can do this role. It's more the action in the content, or what they're going to bring to it. I don't know too much about Skarsgård, honestly, like his history or anything like that. So I really don't have a strong opinion about him on that. As long as it's not like, Jared Leto, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people will probably say, oh, he looks the part. I don't know, he could be the part, but he looks the part. So I would like the world to be a little bit more grittier. I would like to see more of the action, just way more action for it, and maybe go a little bit more depth into the story. Make the protagonist, or sorry, not protagonist, antagonist, a little bit more threatening. It was the antagonist was a little bit talk the talk, but not walk the walk. Which inside joke, is he a Highlander? Because those swords remind me of Highlander and the long hair and everything, Knob, tell me you did not see that when you opened that door, opened that case, and all those swords. I'm like, dude, those swords have a lot of history. Is he a Highlander? He's a Highlander. That's why he's not scared of nothing. He ain't scared of nothing, Knob. Anyways, those are some things.
Yeah, he's a Highlander. He came from Highlander 2, which is why we're at where we're at. Anyway,
Yeah.
I as far as the movie, as far as the upcoming movie is concerned, Skarsgård looks the part. He looks the part. I think he will be fine as an actor to play the part. The part that does kind of makes me a little sad about is the action aspect of Bill Skarsgård, because I'm not quite sure how he will be. But I definitely want to see more of the villains. Like, I want to see more of the gangs. And the same thing that I had an issue with Gladiator, there needs to be a reason why we really hate these people. And I agree with Jeremy to a point. I get the idea of the story of like how these guys brutally raped and like killed his fiancée and him before their wedding, and that's what brought him back as the Crow. But I feel that they could have made it worse and made it something that we would see and be like, "Oh, I hate you. I want you all dead." Like they could have killed a puppy or something. Okay, they might have taken that already, but let's not say they killed. But I think they could have made
Maybe
it.
if the woman's pregnant.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bride,
maybe the
right?
woman- yeah.
Because this is the part where I feel like if this movie was similar to like Kill Bill,
Okay.
like as far as like you follow the villains and you see him track down and murder all the villains, I want to see more of a mysterious Crow. Like I don't need to see him running around like getting from place to place. Like I want to see him just
More of a mystery.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Be more of a mystery and have a little bit more supernaturalness to him, or at
Mhm.
least seemingly more supernaturalness to him, other than just getting shot and not getting killed. Like I would like for him to be able to like stalk his prey and then like torture him and scare him and just make us feel satisfied with the revenge that he gets, and
Mhm.
not be so quick. So I would like to see a lot of that, and of course more action. I think that will definitely make the movie a intriguing movie, because I think the story itself they can flesh out. I think they just need to put more details to it for us, the audience, the casual audience, to actually watch it and be excited for it. From the from the talks of it, Jeremy doesn't sound like he's too fond of this movie.
Yeah, no, I wanted to like it, and I think that it is a product of its time. It is based on how the movie's editing, the loud rock and roll music that '90s movies used to do for big action scenes and whatnot. Um, yeah, it just didn't click with me, and I don't know if I would have liked it if I was younger because maybe I just wasn't into those kind of dark themes. It's hard to compare. It's hard, but Batman has to be mentioned in some shape or form. For me as a kid, I'm like, Batman was just that sweet spot of like dark, but also there was like some light in the tunnel, and maybe because it was so dark and day, but here's being so dark, maybe it just wasn't for me. And now looking at it now, it's more like I think it could have gone further, and that's what I'll always be thinking when I watch this movie.
And for me, I enjoyed the movie for what it was, but it definitely wasn't something that I remember. I don't. I remember it more fondly than I do feel like I I enjoy it now. I still enjoy it, but it's not as good as I remember it. And that's the purpose of the movies that we watch, that we talk about, right? In past attractions, is to see if those movies that we watched in the past was something that we just, if it still makes us feel warm in our tum tum, or we're just like, oh well, it was good for its time. And for me, I think The Crow is good for its time, and it had a lot of potential. And I think Brandon Lee did fine, but we'll just have to close the chapter on it, and we'll see what they go on from here on out. But on the next episode, Jeremy will be taking the director's seat, and he'll be pushing me off to the side and making me get his coffee. 2 sugars and some cream. Remember that. But until next time, guys, I will see you on the next episode of Past Attractions. Say bye, Jeremy.
See you later.
Bye.